All right, world of YouTube. We're going to give it a second just to let people get in and see where it goes from there. So just kind of bear with me. Hopefully, we get a few people in, see what's going on. Jeremiah Dream, Shalom. Yeah, for tonight, we're going to be going over bug in or bug out. That's pretty much kind of, I guess I forgot when I started doing the prepper series. I didn't fully explain between bug in, bug out, and the essentials. So we'll be breaking that down. And bravo, peace and blessings to you. Ray One, thank you for making it. Yeah, so I don't know if many people have an overview of bug in and bug out. So I believe that's really important to explain to the people. Mama knows, peace and blessings. Sean P. the Aborigine, thank you for making it. Yeah, but we have the bug in and bug out scenarios. This is just a base for what most people either do or don't know. So if you're already familiar with bug in and bug out, this will probably just be a refresher course for you. Yeah, actually, I can dip into a little bit of generators intents, get into a little bit of that, basically talking about the bug out situations. Now, as far as Radamas Prince, peace and blessings to you, man. But yeah, as far as the bug in and bug out, we definitely want to get into that as far as being able to understand when to bug in and to bug out. I think that's something that I neglected, and actually a lot of different preppers neglect, is some people genuinely assume that bugging out is the best alternative. But that's not necessarily the truth. Generally, when you want to bug in, you want to have things kind of set up and prepared for the location you're going to be going. You want to know certain things about the location and area. You want to be able to figure out where you're going, how you're getting there, the different ways. But if everyone can hear me, could you give me a 1 in the chat just to let me know? Just want to make sure that levels are right and you're able to hear me thus far.
Yeah.
Okay. Find a for sale mansion and bug in. Yeah, that's a lot of area. It'll be okay, thank you. At least letting me know that you can hear me. Okay, now let's go ahead and step into the world of bugging in and bugging out. I'm gonna make this pretty fast, or at least try to. Oh, Robert Jones, peace and blessings to you. Robert Salazar, peace and blessings. Dimples Gang, thanks for being here. You know, greatly appreciated. But yeah, when it comes to the bug out situation, bugging in and bugging out have their own benefits, back and forth. It depends on what type of prepper you are, per se. You have some people who would prefer to bug out, which bug out is never a long-term alternative. Generally, it's supposed to be for short term. Short term, a week, 2 weeks, a month. because there's so many things that you have to secure in the process of bugging out. Bugging in is where you bug in place. You figure out where you're going to establish, such as your home, any other place that you're at, and then you just generally stay there. That is important because that's where your preparations will be, such as your food, your water, of course, your shelter, but there are numerous other things that you're going to need when bugging out versus bugging in. Bugging out is a last ditch effort. If you have to leave all your preps behind and go out into the wilderness, bugging out is just fine. But if you have the ability to bug in and stay where, one, you're safe, two, you're comfortable, and three, you have the availability to get your food, water, the different things that are already here, it's easily accessible, one, and two, you better know your surroundings. Since you live in this general area or the place you're going to bug in, it's generally a lot easier. So with mentioning that, we're going to mention certain things you can have in your bug in versus your bug out. Your bug out is always going to be very minute things. When you look at tents, locations, climates, when you look at the other things that you have to carry, bugging out carries and has weight to it. And you're going to have to be able to carry this weight for long distances, maybe miles, unless you're able to get to a car. So in case of an EMP, electromagnetic pulse, that generally tends to knock out everything electronic in the area. That will slow you down a lot if you can't get to a car. So bugging in generally adds security, because not from just a mental, but a physical and emotional being used to the area that you are bugging in. It gives you a sense of home and a sense of security, something that you know, something that won't necessarily make you nervous or jitter when you're going out. So that is generally the importance. Now, when you're bugging out, there's many things to take into consideration. One, you have to figure out where will you and your family take shelter, if you are with your family. If not, completely understood. But that is something you have to take into account. Now let's look at two. Do you have a backup shelter or a plan or a backup for your backup? That is very important to ask, because do all those people with you know your backups? Do they know where you're going? Do they know where you're going to be meeting? Hey, Opi Miha, I'm Petuwaste, Relly. Good seeing you here. But to those who are in your family, your friends, your loved ones, do they know where you're going? Do they know the backup or the secondary backup? Now that you've established your plan or your bug out location, you have to ask, is it close to water? That you have to remember. You can go 3 minutes without air. You can go 3 days without water. You can go 3 weeks without food. So pretty much your essentials have to be situated at your bug out location. Don't just assume that you're going to be able to bug out and automatically have everything set out for you. Now, the fourth thing you have to ask yourself is the shelter you're choosing when bugging out. Is it warm? Is it dry? And does it have security? So if you're the militant prepper who has many firearms, you have to carry all those firearms and all that ammunition. And of course, that means you're carrying a lot of weight. If you're the prepper who is going to be, the outdoor prepper, one who's more outdoorsy, they know how Oh, wow. In Bravo, hey, congrats on that one. Well, in Bravo proved me wrong. Did 4 days with no food or water. That one would be a tough one. The hunger pains would get to me. But you have to make sure that your security is able to travel with you. How many long rifles? How many pistols? Are you carrying crossbows? Are you having, how many arrows are you carrying? So you have to really sit down with the amount of weight that you're going to be carrying and trekking with you to make it to that location. Then once you've made it there, is it enough to actually help you survive? Now, do you have access to food and shelter in that same bug out location? That's a big one because if you make it to your bug out location, you have no food, you're kind of stuck because ultimately you have to start from scratch. The assumption that bugging out to the woods because there's food, water, shelter in those areas, that's very common. But if you're not a survivalist, you've actually put yourself in a worse position than being in the city and being able to scavenge. That's only for safety purposes and knowing your surroundings. Now, also, are you carrying or are you going with a group of people? You have a group of people going with you to the bug out location because the more people you have to start from scratch. So whatever food preparations that you have at the time and the amount of food that you have stored for 1, 2, 3, 4 people, for each additional person, those food rations go down. And if you're going to be moving around in the wintertime, then vegetation will be minimal. So you're going to have to go for more of your fish, your meats. If you're going to prep, carry light foods with you, instant mashed potatoes, peanut butter, very calorie dense and protein dense foods. Also, you're going to have to carry water with you or a water filter. Now, that's just kind of the overall in a stuff hits the fan situation. Being able to really sit down and assess where you're going in your location, because it's not as easy just to run and bug out and think that everything's going to be okay. Because ultimately, like I said, it's a start from scratch. Hey, Stephen Red Clay, peace and blessings to you, my brother. Thank you for making it. Okay. What type of emergency are you leaving when you bug out? Now, there are emergencies that you have to bug out. Floods, certain hurricanes, if you can, of course. Then there are others that are better to bug in. But we're going to have to ask, do you have a plan to keep your food secure and dry? Because if you're bugging out, you're not the only thing that's after that food. If it smells it, they're going to be after it. So you have to deal with the animals out there, some seen and unseen, raccoons, possums, bears, whatever wild cats you have out there. So if you're not already familiar with being an outdoor prepper may not be the best thing to do, only because remember, it is strictly temporary. Now, do you have caches in different locations? Do you have different stockpiles? Have you sat down and made sure there is food on the way to your bug out location, wherever it may be? If it be 5, 10, 15, 20 miles away and you have to do it on foot, do you have a little bit of water or do you have a little bit of food at a friend's house or another location that is easily accessible to you? Another thing to think about. This is all the things to think about when bugging out. How long will your stocks last? Because if you're only taking a backpack or a book bag full of food, Your rations are going to be very, very minute. Yes, actually, Mama knows I will be going over that. Not in this build, but I will be trying to get on more frequently. And I'm going to be talking about edible um, nuts and berries, edible foods, what herbs to look for, and also what herbs are toxic, non toxic. Um, so I'll be trying to go over that. But there are many different books you can find and buy that'll help you out as far as figuring out what is what in those cases. But until then, like I said, I'll be trying to get to that this week. Now, what is your plan to replenish your stockpile? What is your plan to replenish your food, your water? How long can you have that? Once again, we're bumping into a situation where the more people you have, the harder it gets. But if you have enough, if you're going at it alone, and this is going at it alone from a mental standpoint makes everything tougher, only because in this world we are creatures that generally have to be around someone or something for morale, for the mental aspects. Being alone is it's tough. So on an individual level, you have preppers who think that they're just going to go out into the wilderness by themselves and tough it. Not always the truth. Actually, far from the truth. When you sit down and look at the people around you and you figure out what you have versus what you're lacking, then you can figure out ultimately which way to go. Okay, Jeremiah Dream says, I keep coming back trying to build gardens, bug in and around, bug out shelters. If power goes out, we can't use grow lights. Okay, if power works, generators and solar lights are the key. Yes. Now, Jeremiah Dream, when you are picking a solar generator, you generally want to find one that suits your needs. So if you're using LED grow lights and you're using high efficiency bulbs, 7 watt, 8 watt, 10 watt, you can look at your solar generator, and generators are based off of watt hours. So if you have one that's 280 watt hours, 400 watt hours, 600 watt hours, you'll be able to do the math and figure out how long these things will last you during the day. Also, how long they take to charge. So there are a couple different variables that I can go over as far as helping out with solar generators. Now, do you have a first aid kit? That's another thing. Are you carrying a first aid kit and a comprehensive first aid kit? One that is splints, one that has sutures, one that has pretty much the things that you'll need. Most people lack first aid. They're so busy getting prepared that they forget that there's a high possibility and probability of getting injured. Do you have a staple gun, liquid skin? Do you have something to stitch yourself up with? So those all come in variants. On the screen, there are numerous generators. Figure out your watt hours, what you're going to be running. Oh, War Chief Redline, peace and blessings to you, my friend. And then from your watt ratings, you can take it from there. But once again, I'll break that down a little further on. Okay. Now, the individuals you're with or yourself, how will you keep your family or group safe from attackers or people who want your stuff? So there's a lot of variables, not only in bug in, but especially in bug out. Bugging out is fun when it's not life threatening, but I'm not necessarily going to say it's the greatest thing if it would be a life threatening situation. Now, do you have weapons training? medical training, any form of training that would come in handy. And can you take people with you who have that kind of training? Once again, something else that's highly important. You have to kind of take things in stride. Being able to sit down, understand, and look at what's going on in your surroundings. That's why I warn people about bugging out to a location. If you're a concrete gorilla, we'll say it that way. If you're familiar with the urban jungle, putting yourself out into the forest may actually be devastating. Oh, peace and blessings to you, Natalie Sharp. Thank you for making it. But going and taking yourself out of your element, that will automatically throw you off. Being able to maneuver in and out of your area and surroundings, knowing your buildings, knowing your location. Now, for instance, a flood, natural disaster, weather, those are reasons you may have to bug out. Hey, Starduster, good to see you. So having the ability to bug out and then figuring out your plan. Are you going to be an individual who is able to scavenge? Or will you have your necessities there? So once again, more things to compile on in the bug in or bug out. If you can bug in, bugging in is great. But if you can bug out, it makes it tough. That's why I'm bringing up these things about when to and when not to bug in or to bug out. Now, as far as, do you understand being outside? Do you know the woods? Can you build a shelter? Are you able to hunt, catch, set traps? Do you have enough food carrying on your back to be able to get where you need to go? Like I said, all this comes into play. Now, as far from a bugging in, me, myself, many people will tell you run from the city. Hey, to each their own. I know both. I know the city and I know the country. You have to have a certain mindset in order to bug out. If someone gets sick, what are their needs? Hey, Red Wolf, peace and blessings. Thanks for showing up. Being able to really assess what's going on, not only in nature, and how much danger will you put yourself once you go out to a location you're not familiar with. If you haven't already established a bug out location, then you yourself might put yourself in danger by accidentally going to someone else's bug out location. There are people who have been watching and planning to bug out for a long time. There are people who are actually prepared and amped to bug out. So there are many things you have to take in and think about whenever you're going over this, as far as your climate, your area, your food sources, you know. So this is just a thought. You want to give any input, brother?
Yeah, I mean, what's up, everybody? Hey, thanks for having me on. Yeah, no, I'm just listening, man. And to me, it makes a lot of sense. Like, why? I mean, I guess if you really have to leave, I guess you have to. But if you don't have to, I think it would make it a lot easier to bug in, you know, instead of just trying to survive out in the wilderness, out in the streets, out in the cities, out wherever. You would have to bug out. And so, yeah, I mean, if you can stay in and bug in, I think that would be better. And find out how you can stay safe in there and bug in for a while. How do you prepare for that? You know, think about everything, I guess.
Yeah, being able to take it into consideration and understanding bugging in versus bugging out. When I first got into prepping, no one really explained the difference between the bug in and the bug out. So I always assumed that I would have a bug out bag because the best thing to do would be to hit the road and be gone. Honestly, I learned that's not necessarily the truth. When I had a couple things go on, and when I was out bugging out, when I was out camping, when I was out trying to understand nature, wind, the way things go, bugging out is not as simple as people think. Since bugging out isn't as simple as people think, most people just believe that they're going to go out and eat every fresh vegetable and there's going to be food the plenty out there. You are not the only one fighting for food. So when you're out there and you're actually dealing with that, remember, you are not alone out there. And not only have you come from a place where you are comfortable, you have officially made yourself a moving target. Want to give a shout out to Rod Jeweler. Thanks for showing up. But becoming a moving target, you don't know what people. There you go. Yeah, Lloyd Carty. If you bug in, talk about becoming a gray man. Yeah, I've spoke about the gray man. We will jump back into that. Oh, and if you could hit that like button, it'd be greatly appreciated. But when you're bugging out, becoming a target, especially a big bright target, depending on if you don't have the proper clothing, if you don't have a ghillie suit, I have a couple different types of ghillie suits. You've officially made yourself a very easy to find target, depending on the colors. Will you move in the day or will you move in the night? That's another question you have to ask. Moving in the daytime versus the nighttime. If you're going to move at night, you run the risk of running into nocturnal creatures. Also, it always gets colder at night. Your vision is not as good as at night. But setting a fire at night keeps the predators away, but it turns you into a giant bullseye because the smoke, the smells, and the glint off the fire, that can actually draw people in. So in that case, once again, take this into consideration. Also, the season you're bugging out. If you bug out, oh, not a problem, Starduster. I'm happy to hear you ordered one. Also, if you bug out, be sure, because water is very important, but without dry wood or a way to make fire, you're pretty much bound to die. No offense, just kind of take it as it is. Because wood is just as important as water. Because if you aren't able to boil your water or heat your water, then that's going to be a rough one. Oh, peace and blessings, Legacy. Good to see you in here. If you don't have wood to light, if you don't have dry wood, and people believe wood is in abundance, but wet wood or wood with a high moisture level doesn't necessarily tend to burn as well. And it smokes a lot, which sends off signals. So preferably you want to get dry, seasoned, and dead wood. So just saying you're going to go out and break wood off of trees and set it on fire, yeah, go ahead and try that, see how well it works. The moisture content in the wood will keep it from burning. It'll eventually start to sizzle. Depending on how long the wood has been dry, I normally get seasoned and dry wood, and the wood normally takes about 2 seasons to dry. Now, if you're able to find ash trees, which ash trees, you could pretty much chop them down and burn them on site. I stock up ash wood, oak, different hardwoods for the year. And that one makes, the wood takes a different time and how long it's been exposed to the air. Now, the type of wood you can and can't burn, you will need to know as far as if you're burning indoors, pine is not the wood to burn. Pine builds up a massive amount of creosote, which can also cause chimney fires. But pine is a very high burning, fast burning, high igniting wood because of the sap inside the pine. Now, if you're outside, you can break down pine and use that to start the fire. Even pine needles, dry pine needles go up very quickly. They provide a massive amount of heat, but it's for a short spurt. If you want wood that'll burn overnight, you want to go with a hardwood, not a softwood, because those woods you generally have to continue to load, so you will lack your sleep, or you'll have to have someone loading them. Starduster, when asked what's the best way to store wood to keep it dry, just a tarp. When seasoning wood, it doesn't really matter. You want as much wind to get to wood as possible and be able to, it depends on how you stack it and also how much air can cut through the wood. So if air gets through the wood, it'll generally dry it out quicker. Now, when you split the wood down, the more pieces you split your wood down in, that allows for it to pull the moisture. And you're able to pull the moisture from the wood just by, that's why I eat seasoning. But check and always remember to figure out how long it takes certain woods to season. Some woods are 1 year, some wood 2, some wood can be burned right away. I have some oak, some really old oak that it takes 5 to 7 years to season, but man, you throw that on the fireplace, it'll burn all night. So, okay, my bad going down here. Oh, as far as just covering it, yes, you can use a tarp. Now, the good thing about a tarp is it keeps moisture and rain from getting in. But if it's not raining, take it off, especially in summer seasons, because the humidity rises and that top layer of wood will still be wet. So that kind of can throw off your wood. I generally dry mine out in the open, or if I have the ability to, because being up here in Ohio, if the seasons get a little too rainy, you don't really have to worry much about it. You just go ahead and, like you said, tarp it. But when you tarp it, make sure the tarp doesn't overlap over the sides and make sure it gets as much air as possible. You generally want to burn wood, if I remember correctly. They have a moisture measurer. You want to burn under 15%. Anything over 15% moisture in the wood will slow down the production of heat and also uses more energy to burn the wood than it actually does. Takes more to burn the wood than it actually does to keep it ignited. Then you have to have proper airflow to the wood when it's burning. Now, I know I sound like a wood burning nerd, but yes, there are many different types of wood. And up on you can see like apple wood. Coaling is great, which means when you coal your wood, that's when it burns down and it has the red embers. Now, ease of start, some are very poor, where you can sit there and put the coals on it and just let it sit and really try and go, but it's not going to. So being able to get your fire started, your fire active, that can really save your life. Learning what kind of woods to get, what kind of woods are your surroundings, what kind of heat class, the BTUs they put out. I stopped heating my house with gas about 5 years ago. I only heat my house with wood. And it's cut down tremendously, especially if you split your own wood. It's cut down tremendously on the bills. Also, I enjoy wood heat, but the only thing is, if you're bugging in, remember you have to boil water in order to add moisture to the air so you don't pull the moisture out of not only yourself, but putting the wood around the fire to dry it works too. I'm a wood stove person, but we'll continue on and get into, tents. So sorry for going on the rant about the wood. You got anything to add, brother Cody Mail?
No, I think it's important. A lot of people don't even know, what to use, how to use it, how dry it has to be. So I think it's important talk and very necessary to know. And yeah, if you can go like a new without using electricity or gas, man, hey, you're gonna save a lot of money and you're gonna be basically prepared for the day that you have no electricity or gas. So something to think about.
Oh yeah. Um, now I remember we were talking about tents. Now when we're going to bug out, uh, this was earlier. Someone had a question about tents. So now that I've gone over wood, if I've clarified that, or if you have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and throw that out there, and I'll try to answer whatever questions come up in the chat. Um, Now we got tents. Okay, Jeremiah Dream, quick tents, tents with chimneys, and build shelters. Okay, peace and blessings, Kendrick. Thanks for being here. Just want to give you a shout out. And Jaina Lulu, peace and blessings. Thanks for being here. Now, if we're in a hot climate, you want to make sure that when you pick a tent, you want to know the climate you're going to be bugging out to. Oh, peace and blessings, Kaiwa. Definitely. Thanks for being here, my brother. But when dealing with the locations, you want to know the climate you're going to be in. So a person who is bugging out in California or Texas or South and Central America or, up here in the North, Canada, everyone needs to know what location they're going to so you can understand the climate. Getting a tent versus having a makeshift tent is a huge difference in what you're going to be doing and using. Now, if you're out in a sunny area, or if you're out in the area that's extremely hot, you don't want a tent that's going to just hold in massive amounts of heat, because ultimately you're going to cook yourself. The tent needs of certain places are not the tent needs of others. You want to be as comfortable as possible. So if you're in an area, for instance, like California or a hot area, you also want to know the predators in the area. So here up north, we don't generally tend to have scorpions or certain types of snakes or many venomous snakes, which allow us to lay on the ground with a little more frequency. Now, for those who are going to be in different areas, hotter areas, places like the deserts, you want to have a tent, but if you build it, you could use a tarp for proper airflow, but try to bring yourself off the ground a little bit, or make something that will ultimately keep away small predators, because of course they're, or have a tent you can seal. Have a tent you can seal up from top to bottom, have something that can get good airflow through, have something that can release heat. Now, heading further east or into Canada, where you're going to get the colder climates, you want to have a tent that generally is going to have enough size for you to be comfortable. And if you're able to, they have tents that are already ready and set up to put in small camping stoves. That will keep you hot. Also, there's stove pipes that go out. You have many different ways to be able to keep yourself warm and not necessarily give off signals, but when you're going to cook different things, the little twig stove work wonderfully. The main thing is to keep as much wind off you as physically possible. Got to give a shout out to G West and Wanagi. Peace and blessings. Thanks for making it. Greatly appreciated. So keeping the wind off yourself, having a windproof, waterproof, weatherproof tent, that will help you tremendously. Being able to have an area where the flue pipe can go out, that will allow you to heat yourself. If you do not have a tent where you can have a small DIY stove or a camping stove, then you're going to want to go and grab something like a They have different ratings on your sleeping bags. They have -10, -20, -30. You also want to be aware of how warm or cold you're going to need to be. You're not always going to be just at the, peak of, you're not always going to be completely cold, and you're not always going to be just in a completely warm situation. You may have lucky nights. There are some nights in the desert that get just as cold as other places because when the sun goes down, there's nothing to hold in heat. So when dealing with that, you want to be prepared for that. And then also, like in the area, for instance, where Cutimeo lives, you have many different microclimates. So bugging in and bugging out can change. Would you like to speak on that a little bit, my brother?
Well, yeah, over here, there's different microclimates, so like you can be in a hot place or a very cold place. So I guess it depends on the region you're at, and you got to know the region. That's why he was saying earlier. Make sure you know where you're going into, because you got to be ready for that environment, the weather, the animals, everything. And over here, some places you just don't go into, and certain types of forests and stuff and mountains. It's just no man can go in there. So that's very important to know here in my case.
And that's what's important, is to be able to know where you're at, your climates, what you're going to be able to do and not to do. You have to be very intuitive when you're prepping. You have to be one, I'm not going to say with nature, but understand your surroundings. Once again, we're going to kind of slide back into the bug in situation, where those who are used to the we'll say city prepping. Those who are city prepping, generally, many people will bug out to the country. You will find many who stay in the city. Assess your threat group and assess your threat level. Also assess that you will have to get supplies. Which one would it be easier for you to get supplies from? Out in the country, which may seem safer because it's out in the open, or the city? Are you familiar with how to make stills? Are you familiar with water purification and water preparation? Is the house that you're picking or the house that you're in, are you able to consistently stay stable? Now, when bugging out, and this is just being for real, when bugging out, we have to get away from the singular prepper. The shows that we generally see have one single prepper out on his own, toughing it for 3, 7, 10 days, 30 days. But normally, do we look at the physical, mental, and emotional toll that takes on an individual? Do you look at what happens to that person's body when they show you a before and after? That is not made for long periods of time. And if you are going to be out for long periods of time, the best thing to do is to find a group. When you go out in a group, you have a better chance of survival, only because people have their strong and their weak suits. People can help each other. People can go hunt. If you're doing it by yourself, you can make things tough for yourself. And that's not here nor there. It's just the reality. That's why when indigenous cultures moved back and forth, they moved in tribes, because being able to link up and understand who you have with you, that definitely does help out. Because it takes more than one person. And if you have a child, if you have a significant other, if you have a loved one, when bugging out, also look at the needs of the individuals around you. Will those individuals need medical attention? Do you have someone who's elderly? What disabilities does the individual have? Are they sick? Do they not feel too well? So you have to take into account, when moving out in the wilderness, who will slow you down and who is beneficial. So there's so many things to take in when bugging out. Natalie Sharp says, okay, I'm in the mountains in Georgia. The climate is not stable. So even looking at a situation like that, where there's a lack of stability in the climate and the weather, you have to consider, is it better to bug in or bug out, especially when you're looking at houses and homes and different places that hold in warmth. Because even a house in the dead of winter, even a house in the dead of winter will get cold, but you have the accessibility to heat it up. Then many houses, even though they've been taking them out, fireplaces, we're not going to get into that conspiracy theory why they're taking fireplaces out of houses and outlawing them and blocking them off, in order to keep people from being completely self-sufficient and also make money off of their gas bills. But you didn't hear me say that. When you're able to get to a place where you can heat your home, when you can heat your water and you're safe, a tent's kind of a calling sign. So is smoke. Once again, back to the wood, I apologize. When you burn certain types of wood without moisture, you can actually get, and you see in the movies where they have all this smoke rolling out of the, if you reburn or you have something called the gasifier reburns the smoke. So ultimately you can have close to a smokeless fire. Most people won't even know you're there. Now, when it hits the cold air, yes, it will, steam a little bit, but you can still get away with it. Now, there are scents and many different things to think about when bugging in versus bugging out. And that's why I tell people, be very careful when you're thinking about your bug in versus bug out. When you're sitting down and you're thinking who you have with you, what you have with you, the supplies you carry, if you have 600 pounds of rice, 200 pounds of beans, will you actually be able to carry that to another location? Even though things may seem grim, you ultimately don't know if you're going to necessarily need to bug out until you really want to go with your gut. If bugging out seems imminent or attack and danger seems imminent, weather, different things like that, yes, bugging out. Now, when you're speaking on being able to get out, hunt, fish, do the things you're going to need to do, consistently keep fire going, it makes for a very touchy subject. And this is, I can always go back on it and say that we've become very, very comfortable with the lifestyle that we live. Many people want a way out of the system while enjoying the comforts of the system. This is where we've become very docile, and we are now codependent instead of independent. We have lost our independence based off of not necessarily necessity, but nice shiny trinkets. And we no longer look at the way of life the way we should. So that's why bugging out seems so easy rather than bugging in, because we've got to a point where if you don't like what's going on, you just run away. And that's just society. But in a bug out situation, you never know, because grass isn't always greener on the other side. You could put yourself in a worse situation than you ever thought you could be in. And that's just what society has generally done to us. So I don't want to generalize, but it's human nature to go generally for what's easier. That's just human nature. Some people enjoy the challenge while other people don't necessarily want the challenge. Now, I will be talking about, in another build, not this build, but I will be talking about circumstances of marauders, villains, what we would consider villains, and people who are about survival. Now you have, say for instance, and this is going to be something that most people are going to say they'll fight to the death. Now, say for instance, someone takes over your area. Someone takes over your area. Someone takes over the place you're in. Someone takes over and they're providing food, water, and shelter, but you don't necessarily agree with what they're doing. Do you fight? Do you go for food, water, and shelter? Do you go, do you run away and bug out? What do you do when something happens and some form of power or hierarchy goes into your area? But speaking generally, and this time I will have a kind of a generalization here. Speaking from a general standpoint, individuals will tend to go with the sheep and whatever is easier. So even if they don't agree with what's going on, they will roll with the punches in order to preserve themselves. Self-preservation is human nature. So going with what's easier, even if not agreed upon, as long as it provides food, water, and shelter for their family, they may do things that they generally don't want to do or go against their moral compass. Now, I ask that question in this bug in or bug out situation because there may be a possibility of this happening. There may be a possibility of individuals taking over the area, and it's more like a Mad Max scenario where you are fighting for food, water, et cetera, et cetera. Now, what do individuals do in that situation? And I don't want anyone to answer only because the question really needs to be assessed. If it comes between your kids living and dying, do you bow down to those who are doing evil in order to keep your family alive? Do you fight till your last breath, or do you ultimately die and leave them to the those who aren't doing the right thing? Many people are gung-ho Rambo and say, I'm gonna die. Great. But if you have a family to look out for, your death may not be the best thing for them. Bugging out, and I'm not necessarily going to give my answer, ultimately because you have to be mentally, spiritually, and emotionally prepared to die, if that is your choice. To leave those behind, and you have to have a source and really think about that later. And there will be people who want power and try to make a hierarchy. Everything is not just going to fit into place, and people are not just going to say, you know what, let's all get together, hold hands, and sing Kumbaya. It's not going to happen. Yeah, Jeremiah Dream. Yeah. 330 million people. They say the average is 90% of people will die in the first 60 days. And that's not trying to depress anyone. I'm not trying to depress anyone. I don't want to fear monger. I don't want to scare anybody. I'm just saying from a real point, the ratio of animals right now, and then you have people who say they'd resort to cannibalism. It's such a scary world out there. And I'm not telling you whether to bug in or bug out, because the choice is yours. You know, if you have a location to bug out, if you have an area where you have people, friends, family, ones who are going to be with you, ones who are going to help you, bugging out until you get to that location, there's nothing wrong with that. Understand the psychology and understand, you know, the people who are around you. Know those who you are going to be prepping with. Because if you're in a forced situation, you never know what individuals will do when placed in a position of power. It has been shown historically, and from a standpoint that there will be people who you think are good people who will ultimately turn and do very horrible things in order to prove a point. I will be doing another bill because I do believe people need to know the art of war and also the 48 laws of power, because you will know when they're being used on you and when you are being manipulated into certain situations. Now, this information most people should be privy to. And Dan, peace and blessings. Got to give you a shout out. Didn't want you to think I forgot about you. Now, people are going to react very differently than what people are assuming. There are many people who are perfectly fine with being able to, there are many people who are fine with being able to live under the thumb of another individual. There are people who are not okay with that. Having the capability to fight, that's fine. But once again, that's why I don't want to completely like beat this into the ground, but looking at a what will you do situation. Having the comforts that we have allow us to believe that we have the illusion of choice. I could speak on that for hours. But as long as we yield to an individual and work our jobs, and then we go and we get our food, we get water, we get those things. And with the pandemic that's gone on, food has been flying off the shelves. People who once never thought they'd have to wait in food lines are waiting in food lines in order to eat. You have people who are in situations who they never ever thought they would be in. Now they are actually in these situations where it's now they're forced to do things they never thought they would, and they're scared, they're terrified. That ultimately does show what happens to the morale of the population. Sit down and take a look at all the things that are going on right now. You have different aspects of what people are doing mentally. You have people who are denying what's going on. You have people who are making conspiracy theories. And I'm not going to say what I am or what I'm not, but you have people in denial. You have people creating conspiracy theories. You have people who are saying it does exist, it doesn't exist. You have, but does it change the fact of what's currently going on in the world right now? So rather than making or thinking of the conspiracy theory, ultimately prepare for whatever could happen. Do I believe in weather manipulation machines? Definitely. Do I believe in UFOs? Yes, I do. Do I believe in man-made viruses? Definitely. Now, when they come out, ultimately, is that going to change the situation that I'm in? So rather than focusing on what possibly made it happen, if I can't currently correct that situation, then yes, I'm going to have to prepare for whatever may come. Dina, peace and blessings. Thanks for making it. And that's one of the things that I look at generally. Oh, when coming in, be sure to hit that like button. Definitely. But yes, these are the things that some preppers think about, and there are many different types of preppers. Definitely gonna have to do a gray man build, only because if I get on a gray man, I will be here for hours. I have done a previous gray man build, but it was kind of jumbled. I'm learning more to write down my thoughts, so I'm able to get more toward the point. But as everyone knows who's been on this channel, I tend to rant. So, thanks for bearing with me. Okay, sun's out there laying chemtrails. They have been doing it more previous years. Yes, I do believe in chemtrails. There's a lot of stuff I believe in as far as from a traditional standpoint, and knowing the history and the background from, I do believe in fallen angels. I do believe in lost sciences. I mean, that's a, Hootie Mail, would you like to speak on that one?
Well, I think that we live in a spiritual and physical world, and I think there's a lot of things that exist. I think they have a rational explanation. It's just we're we've been lied to about a lot of things, history and everything, and what exists out there, and what is reality, basically, at the end of the day, what is reality. So in this reality, I'm sure there's a lot of things that we might not understand, because they've conditioned us to think of reality in one way. So yeah, I can say a lot about that. I don't know, but it comes down to, I guess, what you believe and what you have experienced, and what you think of it personally.
And that's what it that's what it boils down to. Is not just in general, like it depends on what you believe, but there are things going on, and that is a deal build for a different day, because we can talk about the little people so much, but I'm trying to stay on track here, so bear with me. Thank everybody for being here. There are so many, and I don't want people to become completely I don't want people to become completely reliant on certain things, because when those necessities, also in a bug in and bug out situation, you will notice that there are many people on medications. So that's another thing. Have you figured out the natural version of your medication? Have you looked up the medication that a person may take and found the natural solution or the natural version? Also, those who are on, how can I say this, prescriptions for depression or mental illness, et cetera, do people understand what's going to happen when they come off of the psych meds? I know people don't necessarily talk about that, but I have to mention that currently there are more people than you could ever guess who are on psych meds or a form of medication that is altering their mental state. Everything from depression to certain mental illnesses they have, PTSD. There are many different things that contribute to the mentality of specific people. So that's where you also have to figure out your natural healing and your natural herbs. There are things that you can find in nature that can take the place of the chemicals that people are taking. And we have to learn and study. Yes, your natural remedy books will definitely help you. Continue to stay on the natural remedies. Continue to stay on positive energies. Continue to stay on a good vibration. I can't mention that enough, only because people have gotten so down, they really don't know what's really going on. So from a prepping standpoint, as far as being not only just a prepper, but you have the homesteader also. The homesteader is looked at as a prepper. That is someone who is bugged out and made a home bugging out. And absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So you have synthetic medicine versus natural medicine. That's another thing you want to be privy to, especially when going in and looking at your herbal and natural remedies. Ultimately, getting sick can be one thing that will lead to your demise. So being able to know those and what grows in your area, being able to get a natural remedy book is phenomenal. Knowing what grows in your area will help you more. So make a list of things that grow in your area, and ultimately what you can grow, what you can harvest, and what you can get, because it doesn't help if I have a book that gives me a bunch of herbs that I can't get to. So write down a list. So rather than going down and having to be like, oh, I can't get A, B, C, or D, you know exactly what herbs do what in your general area. And that'll ultimately help you a lot. Peace and blessings, David Taylor. Thanks for showing up. Cody Mayo has a great book on natural herbs and remedies. Would you like to speak on it?
Yeah, I ordered actually this encyclopedia. I got it the other day, and it's awesome. It goes very in detail of most herbs in the planet, man, that are medicinal. So like Anu said, if you find the plants that are in your area, you know, you can start learning how to gather them and make medicine out of them in this great encyclopedia. It's only, as you see here, $26 for a hardcover, and if you just want to read it off your Kindle or PDF or whatever, it's $14.99. But it's really big. It's very thorough, very detailed, and yeah, it's awesome. I like it a lot. It has a lot of pictures, so you can see what the herb looks like. You'd be surprised things that are growing right around you, that you know you have that are medicinal and you wouldn't even know. But so far I haven't even gone through the whole book. I just skimmed through the pages, and there's things here that I'm like, wow, that's medicinal, you know, that I have here grown wild. So, you know, little by little start gathering this, putting it all together, and you know, just start working on making my own medicines and stuff, just like the ancestors did.
Oh, definitely, man. Learning to make tinctures and teas helps. Being able to ingest or digest the medicines you're taking definitely helps out. First, sorry, I was reading Julie Carey. I'll definitely send one up for you, and I'm wishing you the best. Yeah, I've had family members who have had to go through that, and definitely just stay strong, stay positive, and many blessings, and I'll definitely be sending up prayers. So, you know, there's always a bright light. Don't ever let the mental aspect of things beat you down. So I will get into, that's one thing we were speaking on early, is the mental aspect of things. Letting the mental will kill you faster than the physical will. Giving up in a situation, especially when it's a do or die situation or prepping and surviving, mentally, that will ultimately, you know, get you. And oh, definitely, trust me, you'll have the strength. I definitely send one up just to make sure you have that extra strength. But yeah, to each, we have to realize that all of us have strong points and weak points. Some of us are strong-willed, some of us have weak wills. Some of us will go with the crowd, some of us will fight against the crowd. Each of us has our nature, and this is not just a prepper thing, this is also spiritual. And once again, I don't try to put this in I don't try to speak on this as if it's going to be just straight up, oh my goodness, the end of the world is coming, the end of the days is coming, blah, blah. No. We have to look at how new our technology is. We lived without it before, we can live without it again. And that is the truth. We can live without all this technology. We can live without computers or the other things that we have. So they're extremely, you know, a lot of that stuff is really, really easy to live without. It's just being able to separate yourself and learn the ancient ways, or being able to learn those ways to empower yourself. When you can empower yourself with knowledge, the knowledge of being able to live, the knowledge to the mental strength that you need, it will give you the ability to, in some sense, not in all, but it will give you the ability to be comfortable in a situation that you may not feel comfortable in. We all have to face our fears, you know, and when it comes to facing your fears, and when it comes to getting out there, facing your fears in a situation like prepping or getting out into the wilderness, bugging in, bugging out, not everyone's going to be the hero. We get this really weird and awkward vision of what a hero looks like, or we get this really weird situation, but mentally, the person who boosts up, or the person who pushes the hero, ultimately is the hero. We're all heroes in our own way. But when a mind is broken, it's very hard to come back from. You have to keep pushing mentally, physically, emotionally. You have to be able to sit down and start working out if you can. Start being able to start attempting to move a little more, because we're in a depressed state. And when we're in depressed, a body out of motion tends to love to rest, but a body in motion tends to stay in motion. Got to get that energy flowing. Red Wolf says, my sister-in-law gave me a book called Prescriptions for Nutritional Healing by Phyllis A. Balch. It's an A to Z reference on drug-free healing and remedies. Oh, wonderful. Yeah, wonderful. Knowing those things definitely helps out. And want to give a shout out to Golden Moon. Want to give a shout out to MW. And sorry, I said I would pray, but Julie Carey definitely want to give you a shout out. Stay strong. Being able to have mental and physical strength in this time, just look at what's going on right now. They have more suicide hotline billboards than I've ever seen before. That actually threw me for a loop when I started seeing that. But because of the change in times and the change in finance, the change in the things that we currently have, there are a lot of people who are going to a very, very bad place mentally. And it's not because they are weak or strong. Different people have different coping mechanisms. So people are experiencing fear, body pain. The things that you focus on mentally can manifest in your physical. Depression, anxiety, those things come along with the whole prepper situation. So having mental preparedness at the time, that also means a lot. Your food, your water, your shelter that you have and the lack thereof ultimately do something for you mentally. Having the ability to have certain things, whether it be fancy or not fancy, people look at certain luxury cars and they're like, man, I would love to have that car. Well, that car means nothing in a survival situation. You would actually just love to have food. So getting into that, extend your library on prepping. And once again, not to fearmonger. Please don't think that that is the purpose. The purpose of this is to make sure that individuals are able to not necessarily leave the system, but when the system, if it does collapse, you will have the capability to live on your own and be able to, do things for yourself. Cody Mail, you got anything on that one?
No, I just agree, with everything you're saying, basically, man. I'm just like listening and learning too, man, taking notes, just like everybody else here.
Yeah, it's being able to find the truth. There are numerous truths, and living in nature, becoming one with nature. Oh, and Starduster too. Yeah, definitely. Have to learn how to tie knots. Matter of fact, go get the old camping books. Go get the old guides to camping and the old Boy Scout books. Go find that stuff. Okay, Natalie Sharp says, okay, herbal contradictions and drug interactions plus herbal adjuncts with medicines, 4th edition. Very nice. I've never heard of that one, but I'm definitely gonna have to look into it. I get different guides. I've ordered the one that Cootie Mail currently has, and I have a couple other different guides. I have Mother Earth Healing. I also have a couple different Indian guides to Indian healing, medicines, herbs. I have a book on how to make tinctures. I also get into what's considered Eastern medicine as far as cupping, Kwai Gao, acupuncture, acupressure. So I do look at medicine from a all around, the internal as well as the external medicine, being able to, just have to give my disclaimer. I am not a doctor. This is not medical advice, all that other good stuff. But as far as like cupping, when they take the glass bowl, they heat it up and they put it on the back. Being able to draw bad blood up and bad chi. I do believe in the flow of chi. I do believe in the flow of energies throughout the body. I do study and understand to some extent the different levels of basically your chakras, understanding those and the points. Oh, Dan brought up a really good one. Okay, of course, how to build shelters. But the one thing that is neglected, and I'm going to be honest on this one, this is something I even neglect. Clothing, primitive clothing. How many people know how to take, especially in this place, especially being up in a colder climate, do you know how to yield clothes that are going to be like thick, things to keep you warm? Because the clothes we have on or the clothes we bought are not going to last forever. Now, let's say there's a pole shift. You have areas that are warm that will turn cold. What is the survival rate of the individuals who are in a warm area all of a sudden finding it cold? So that is one of the things that also, like I said, there's a whole lot to go over. I could literally be on here for hours. I would love to, but of course I can't. I'm not going to lie. And also I'm taking Kuti Mayo's time. So, but Kuti Mayo, as far as like from a prepping standpoint and from a standpoint of say pole shift down in your area, how do you believe people would react if the warmth of your area suddenly snapped and turned cold?
Well, because it's just because of our microclimates, there is places that get really cold, but never as like in the States, like up in the north, in the winters. So our houses ain't built, they're not insulated like in the States. So yeah, a lot of people wouldn't know what to do actually. Our windows ain't, they open freely. There's always air coming in. I mean, where I live, it's it gets like 60s at night, 50s the coldest, but hardly ever. Like right now, it's the coldest time it gets in December. But if it gets colder than this, definitely like we'd have to like really get wood and warm up because our houses are not insulated.
And that's what many people, it's always good to have something, even if it's kind of a backup. Definitely keep something around for heat, maybe a portable fire, just something like that. And Dan, yes, I actually have. I watch a lot of prepper shows. Dan asked, have you ever watched the series Alone? I think that it's a very good show to learn from and to teach people how to survival scenarios. Yes, definitely. That one. And once again, I always big up, oh my goodness, I just asked myself too quick. I forgot the name of the show. I'll remember it here in a minute. But The Colony seasons 1 and 2. Those are phenomenal. Just to be able to understand and look at how it is mentally, physically, emotionally on individuals, morale. They go over a lot of different things from physical to psychological, emotional. So being able to deal with that. But yeah, we'll definitely end up doing a build on the Gray Man. And being able to have some time to just sit down and speak over the Gray Man. Solar generators. Yeah, Starduster 2 said I have a solar generator with 3 panels, but it won't power the whole house. It will power what you need to get through. Depending on what you need, because you can become a minimalist. And when I say a minimalist, that just means an individual who uses, of course, minimal electricity, maybe something, because if you learn how to cook or set up a small cooking stove, you don't necessarily need a gas or electric stove. Learning how to refrigerate your food and preserve food, that one's a different one also. You can learn and look up ways to preserve your food as far as drying, smoking, freeze drying. If you need to preserve foods that need to stay cold, you can dig a hole in the ground and put it down there for a certain period of time. Uh, Lloyd Carty says Naked and Afraid was another good show. Yeah, starting from scratch, it definitely is. It definitely is. And Starduster 2, if you look up your refrigerator and your freezer, you will figure out exactly how many watts it needs. And to be honest, you can power a freezer. Most of even the smaller ones will power a freezer. As long as you don't open it numerous times, you should be able to power that freezer. It'll start on a high watts, then it'll drop to a very minute amount of watts in order just to keep it cold and kick on not as often. But yeah, I have 3 portable generators, and I also have my entire house is solar. I have a 9.6 kilowatt system that powers my entire house. I went solar a couple years ago just because I thought something would happen. You know, yeah, being able to cook on a grill. Also, cooking food, being able to actually cook on a grill, cook over fire. To me, food cooked over a fire is better, 10 times better than anything cooked over gas or electric. But that's just my preference. I still have cast iron skillets. So yeah, it's one of those things. Different strokes for different folks, I guess. But yeah, I prefer that. And then also being able to learn how to forage the nuts, the berries. There's so much that you'll be able to look into as far as learning, prepping, bugging in, bugging out. And that's ultimately what this build was about. Jeremiah Dream, I don't knock it. I really don't. I'm not going to say I condone it, quote unquote, laughing out loud and all that other good stuff. But yeah, to be honest, that's another thing people have to look at. People have to look at what they're willing to do to survive, what they're going to do to survive. Would you steal? What would you do? So, you know, Julie Carey, I struggle with my family not being on board, which unsettles me. Many people have gotten used to the lifestyle that we currently have. They've gotten used to being everything handed to them. You don't have to hunt or kill your food. You just have to go to the store and buy it prepackaged and ready to go. So that's just kind of how people have gotten. Ultimately, from a psychological standpoint, people don't want to see change to some extent because for them, this is very comfortable. That's why I try to express a stuff hit the fan situation, even though it may not happen. I believe it's going to, but you have to prepare for whatever can come up. And you have individuals who aren't prepared or mentally that if they lose it all tomorrow, and it's not always, prepping isn't always just about stuff hitting the fan. Say if you have a garden or food, and say for instance, you lose your job, which many people have done during this pandemic. Many people have lost their job. You have preppers who are okay. You have people who have prepared. I don't think many people thought a pandemic was coming, but you have many people who are still eating on their food supplies and they're able to save money and do different things like pay rent. You have individuals who have lost their houses and their homes. There's a lot going on in this world that's kind of depressing, but there's also, if you can find it, beauty. But don't let the commodities that make us feel good and relaxed pretty much overtake you. And that's what I've noticed. I've been prepping for a long time, and some of my family's on board and some of my family is not. But it always throws me off. And there's so many people who say they hate the system. There's so many people who say they want to leave the system. And there's a lot of people, you know, and this is across the board. You hate, not you, but individuals. You have people who hate the system. Oh, I hate the system. I want to get out of the system. I want to do A, B, C, D, and E. I want to self-govern. I want to do all these things, which is perfectly fine. But ultimately, would you be able to leave the commodities that the system provides for you? That is when you start to have to ask people those questions. It's okay to hate the system, but when the system is feeding you, are you willing to give that system up? That is a question I want you to ask. When people say that they hate this system or they don't want to be part of this system, ask them, can they survive off of the system? Oh, Miss G, peace and blessings, and cast iron skillets were the gifts she got all her children when they got their first home. Yes, because them things will outlive your kids. Cast iron is, yeah, that's the way to go. Also, you'll find that if you look at some of the aluminum and different types of skillets, some of them have, some of them are toxic and they add toxins to your food. Once again, I'm not a doctor, but I do some reading on different ways to cook. Yes, that Julie Carey. It's like we are so busy with life that we don't take the time to slow down. Many people have never smelled a rose, regardless of how old they are. They don't like to because they want to rush through life and get to the end. It's not a race. So just make sure they sit down and understand that the past, if you don't learn from the past, you're doomed to repeat it. And that includes cycles of prepping. You know, the seasons don't change, and there will be a cycle when it falls. Starduster 2, my family, all prep in different places because of egos. I've tried to build with them, but it is what, yes, you will find different preppers prep for different reasons. You will find people who don't prep at all because they believe nothing's ever going to happen. Jeremiah Dream, fishing in mountain water. Yes, I am an avid fisherman, love fishing. Mountain water, don't have any of that, but I do have many different ways to purify water. But, you know, I apologize, this build has gone on a little bit longer than I would have liked it to. I wanted to keep this short. But yeah, I do want to thank everybody for being here. You know, everyone is greatly appreciated. I definitely thank those. And I'll be trying to do a build tomorrow. So if you have some questions, please prepare them and go ahead and type them in the chat. And I'll try and do somewhat of a Q&A in between and be able to answer some of your questions, you know, just to kind of help out. So yeah, I do want to thank everyone for being here. You're all greatly appreciated. Always a wonderful audience with a lot of warmth. And those who have there's always warmth and a lot of positivity in the chat. And I do want to thank everybody for that. You know, everyone is a blessing. Kurimeo, would you like to say something before we kind of round it off?
Yeah, no, first of all, I just want to give a shout out to Basil Breeze for the beats, for the music in the background. Make sure he gets his credit. Thanks for sharing that with us. And I just want to say that I think these builds very important. Some people may not really think so right now, or might not take it as serious as they should. But even before, you know, pandemics or things seeming, you know, that they're gonna go, you know, from worse to, you know, I mean, from bad to worse. You know, this was important even back then. Like you're saying, preparing is being prepared is very important in many ways. And don't take it like a negative thing. You know, luckily nothing will happen, but you'll still be prepared and you have a peace of mind. So I would just take advantage of all these builds and stuff, because a lot of this stuff is things we don't even think about. You know, when I talk to Anu privately, and you know, that's right, man. You know, and you know, let me, you know, get prepared. Let me make sure I'm ready. Take care of my family. Take care of myself if anything does happen, or just to start living off grid, man. Saving some money, becoming independent. I feel like it brings us back to kind of like living how the ancestors lived a little bit. You know, try to regain some of that too. So in many ways, I think it's very important, very educational, very informative. So take advantage. And thanks to everybody for tuning in and for having me. Anu.
Oh, no problem, man. So, hey, it's always great having you stop through. We definitely give a different aspect because, of course, we don't have as many microclimates up here. So you can let people know what it's like prepping from a different area, and that's greatly appreciated. Being able to sit down, and of course, you always put it down on the ones and twos, so greatly appreciated. Uh, it's great that so many people come in, and there's no discord, there's no discourse, and people enjoy the builds. They learn from the builds, and I hope someone takes something from it each time. And actually, Dan, yeah, I believe that time is coming soon. When we do live like our ancestors, families will be families and not so dependent on the system anymore. So, I definitely want to give everyone a shout out. I want to spread good vibes to everybody, all those who enjoy. If you look at the top and you feel like donating, hit the Cash App. But if not, like I said, spread positive vibes. If you want to donate positive vibes to each and everyone out there. Because it's not always something that's financial. It's something that is mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional. So being able to donate just a little bit of time to make someone's day better is a wonderful donation. So I do want to thank everyone for being here. I want to thank those who do donate, those who help out. And I will definitely be posting more videos. And hopefully I will be giving away some of the solar power LED light bulbs. So I'm going to try and do a giveaway where I get those solar LED emergency bulbs. I'll be giving a couple of them out just to show thanks to those who donate, and just to show thanks to those put that giveaway out there. So, once again, thank you all. Stay positive, stay blessed, enjoy. And remember, if you're ready, you don't have to get ready. So I'll catch all y'all later. And go ahead and leave them, if you can, go ahead and leave a message or a comment on things you would like for me to go over, and I'll start jotting them down. And as I jot them down, I'll be able to kind of hit on topics that people want. I didn't know anyone wanted to build on firewood. If I would have known that, but I'm pretty decent with firewood because it's how I heat my house. So yeah, continue. And, give me a challenge, throw some stuff out there that I may not be privy to. And I am not scared to say I don't know. If I don't know, I don't fear saying I don't know, because we learn from each other. So, and Jeremiah Dream, yes, I'm telling you, I try to make sure people prep on a budget only because it does help. So, keep it solar. Clean energy is the way to go. And I will also be putting out more videos and more reviews on some of the stuff that I've acquired. So I appreciate you all. Thank you all for being here. Much love and definitely bliss. So with that, I'll end it, and I'll thank you all again. You're all greatly appreciated. And just keep an eye out for more reviews coming, because I do got products I have to review. Thanks a lot, and I will catch y'all later. Go ahead and let this play out.